Joe, thanks for joining us on talkSPORT. 150 tests. What does that mean?
It means a lot of fielding, doesn't it? It means a lot of overs out there. But no, it's a huge privilege, huge honour. Still vividly remember the first time I walked out there. First time I went out to bat, joining KP in the middle, thinking I was in a bit of a dream world, and just imagining what it was like, or what the 12-year-old version of myself was feeling. And ever since that day, tried to sort of keep that 12-year-old with me in that mindset of how lucky I am and how privileged I am to get the opportunity to play for England. So to bring up 150 games, obviously very proud, but also feel very humbled and lucky to have had the chances to go out and do it so many times.
I was going to ask you, to take you back right to the very, very start. I seen you in 2011 for sort of 3 or 4 games for Yorkshire. There was noises then about you playing for England. What's that feeling like? You've just mentioned there the 12-year-old self, but that feeling of, well, they're talking about me playing in such a positive way, but it's possibly still miles away.
Yeah, it's exactly that, really. You get that excitement factor of, could be closer, just keep doing what I'm doing, keep working hard, and you gain so much confidence from that. But the reality is you're still miles away. You look at that team at the time, it was very settled, it was very senior. So it was going to be very difficult to push your way into it. And Straussy ended up retiring, and that opened up a spot for me to get onto a tour, and off the back of that managed to wangle a game at the end of it and did okay.
Who was your heroes growing up? You must have watched. There was a golden period of English cricket at the time. Looking back at a lot of the footage of you when you were younger, you grew up at a cricket club. Mum, dad, younger brother. You were a cricketing family. But who were the people that you looked up to and tried to emulate when you were playing in that sort of 12-year-old self?
Yeah, I mean, I probably like most kids, whoever was scoring runs is who I was trying to be. When I was younger, guys like Graham Thorpe, watching him go and play and do some amazing things, winning test matches in Asia in the dark, and double 100 here in New Zealand, fastest ever at the time, even if it was for like 2 hours or whatever, which he told us about numerous times when he was coach.
And he was drunk.
Yeah. Those guys. But as a Sheffield lad playing at the same club, Michael Vaughan was someone that I always followed closely and watched. And there was a period, a very influential part in my age, like probably 11 to 13, where he was probably number 1 in the world, and he was banging Australia all around. Even though we weren't winning games, he was scoring big hundreds. And similarly, when he came back to England that summer, scored loads of runs. So to see someone at your own club go on and play for England, it almost makes it a bit more of an achievable goal, and something that's more of a realistic thing to strive towards. And then obviously watching him and yourself and that group go on and win the Ashes as well was pretty epic and pretty special. So that whole group, there were times when I'd run in and try and be you at 60 miles an hour, or Freddie, or
I played with you when I was 60 miles an hour.
They're all things that you grow up, or that they're the sort of players that I grew up watching and playing. And I'd try and do the things that you guys were doing at that time, and some of it I could, and some of it I was so far away from, but never stopped me dreaming of going on and playing for England.
And you've gone on and we're on the eve of the 150th Test match. The sacrifices you have to make. I know a lot of people will say, what sacrifices you play in sport, but there was a lot of sacrifices to not only sort of be at the top, to stay at the top, your family, your close friends, everything that goes with touring life. If you were talking to a young player now, because you've gone across, you've been in international cricket for so long, cricket has changed during your sort of lifetime so far. What does it take to stay at the top for so long?
I think you've got to be pretty level-headed, and you've got to find a way of managing disappointment. I think cricket is a game of failure, especially as a batter. It's very rare you walk off and you're not disappointed. Even if you've got 150, if you've got out, you're still disappointed, aren't you? So the amount of times you actually walk off the field having won the game, not out, is quite difficult. And I think it comes quite naturally to me, but when you're able to enjoy other people's success, I mean, one of my favourite days on a cricket field, I think I got 2 off 20 balls in a World Cup final, which is terrible, really, in one-day cricket. But it's probably one of the best days I've had playing. One of the most enjoyable days. So I suppose having that sort of mentality is it's not about you at the end of the day. It's about how you can affect the team winning and how you can add to that, and then be able to enjoy that together at the end of it. I think that's what I play for. That's what makes it so special to me. And in terms of sacrifices, I'm very fortunate. I've got a family. I've got a wife who is so supportive and understanding, and does so much. Basically single parents when we're away on tour. Thankfully, we've got a little bit of support around, but she's incredibly strong and resilient to be able to manage all of that, and still support me and pick me up off the floor when I've had a bad day.
They're the most important people in your life, aren't they?
They're huge. They bring so much to the table and so much to the team. You might not see it, and the rest of the guys might not see it, but they add so much to making sure you're able to go out there and be the best version of yourself. So, without that, you sort of, it makes it that little bit trickier, and very grateful to have that. And as well, you've got to lean on each other as well. You're away for so long, aren't you? There's some tours that can be up to 8-9 weeks where you're with each other, away from family. So you end up building some pretty strong friendships and relationships, and you get to know sometimes when you need to offer someone a bit more support, and hopefully you don't miss it when when someone is struggling. You want to make sure that you're dragging each other across the line and you're riding each other's waves. If someone's having a good time of it, jump on them and really enjoy it with them, and know that they're going to do that back when it's your time to be successful.
You mentioned that how special is it to go? You've gone on it sounds like you're finished. You're miles away from being finished, but 150 caps. You've done it with some special friends. And I was like, Brodie, Cookie, Jimmy, Ben, Johnny, Wokes, Woody. You've all come at the same time, but you've all gone on to forge a very, very big bond.
Yeah, Joss as well. I think, and so many more as well. But that's a great thing. I know I could ring them up at any time, and we could go and meet for a beer. Or
because cricket's not like that. I always said there was people in my life that were just sort of acquaintances, but I had special people that I played cricket with. There wasn't many, but there seems to be a bigger pool in your group.
Yeah, and I feel so fortunate to have played in a team like that, where we genuinely really enjoy each other's company, and that we will spend time away from the game, away from tours with each other. It wasn't long ago we went on a holiday, me, Jimmy, Zach Crawley, a few of the other lads, and partners and stuff, and we had a great time. So I think that's one of the great things that can come from sport is you do build those friendships and relationships that outlast your time within the environment, and you're gonna have those friendships for the rest of your life ultimately, and be able to look back at some very special moments throughout your career, which is very short. And I'm sure one day when I'm washed up and done, I'll be chewing someone's ear off, telling them how good I was once upon a time.
Hey, talk about special moments. You've mentioned the World Cup. You've won the Ashes. Are they the two highlights over the time you've played? What stands out for Joe Root to say when you are 10 years' time, telling everybody how good you were, and everybody knows how good you were? Is there a one or two moments where you go, yeah, that was great?
Yeah, I think those when you achieve something as a group and you've been a part of it and you've added to that, I think there's no better feeling really. To think about that World Cup, that was 4 years of hard work as a group. The core of that team stayed the same throughout that whole period. We built from being bombed out of the previous World Cup in kind of embarrassing circumstances to then going on and winning it, and it being an incredible sort of climax to it all as well, with a super over and everything. That was a hell of a ride, a hell of a journey with a special group of players. And then you mentioned Ashes, winning 2 Ashes series. Again, you go through so many ups and downs throughout those 5 games, and moments where it can go either way, and someone stands up and does something special. I remember Jimmy taking that final wicket at Trent Bridge in the first one in 2013, and we won by 14 runs, and that sort of swung the momentum massively in our favour for the rest of the series, and we went on to win quite convincingly. And similarly in 15, there were moments where brilliant spells of bowling or the odd cameo innings here were vital in getting us across the line. So to be able to sit back at the end of those, enjoy them with each other, knowing how hard it's been at different occasions to wrestle things in your favour, I think is the most enjoying thing. That you sit back at the end of the day and think, oh, I want to do that again, and we've got an opportunity to do that in 12 months' time. So, which would be the ultimate for me, really, winning in Australia. So yeah, there's something to look forward to and something to play towards.
There's a lot of talk about, obviously, Sachin's record. Knowing you as I do, you're not somebody that looks from an individual point of view. It's all about team. Is that the noise for other people to talk about, or is it deep down? Are you a goal setter and think, actually, that will get me to the end of my career?
No, I'm not a goal setter. In terms of numbers and stuff, I feel like if you set goals, you've got a chance of missing them and being disappointed, to be honest.
I hit them too early.
Yeah, which might sound quite negative, but for me, it's about playing trying to stay in the moment and play the situation of the game. We're going from Pakistan where the conditions, temperatures, everything is very different to what it is here. So being able to ready yourself for these conditions, the different challenges that New Zealand pose as a team, the wickets pose as well. I think readying for that and then playing what's right in front of you, that's what's going to get me the biggest scores and help us win games. And ultimately, if you're playing on a tricky surface, 40 might be a massive score. So, you can't always judge yourself on massive hundreds. It's how you can affect the game, how you can help get your team in a position of strength and wrestle yourself across the line as winners.
Talk to me about playing in this team, because there's some positive talk about it and negative talk about it from the outside. I sometimes think the negative talk of people are jealous about playing in this team because it looks an unbelievable team to play. And every time I come on tour and watch you guys practice, see the group around, be around you, I'm like so envious that I would love to be in this group. But what is it like? Because you've transcended 3 or 4 different types, you've been in charge of some. What's it like to play with this team?
It's genuinely so much fun. I don't know really how different people perceive it. I've got my own view on it, and that is one where I turn up to train every day and I'm excited.
I think I'm talking about the way. Let's talk about the way Ben and Brendan's outlook and playing. There was talk about the way you played in it and everything that goes with that. But the negativity about
that's
that
part
is
of the fun of it.
It is
Everyone's
great, isn't
got
it?
their own opinion and they're entitled to that. But the way that it's going to bring, me knowing this group of players as well as I do, and probably closer than a lot of the people making these opinions and assumptions, is that this is going to bring the best out of them. Yeah. This is how you're going to get their best performances most regularly, playing in this manner, and it's so much fun to play in. You turn up every day wanting to get better at training, and for me, coming in and working with Brendan, I've looked at batting through a completely different lens, and it's been so refreshing, and it's opened my whole game up in a way that I didn't think it could really. Managing different aspects of my game better. I've got a better understanding of things that have become less technical and more situational based in how I approach training, and I think it's benefited me a huge amount. And the reason why I've had good consistency over the last couple of years is because of that mindset and that shift in looking at the game through a slightly different lens. And of course there are things that you're going to have to continue to work on technically, but ultimately you've got to outsmart the opposition. You've got to problem solve out there in the middle, and that's what he brings to the table. That's what Ben's very good at doing as captain himself. It's working out batters, finding different ways of taking wickets, sometimes conceding a couple of boundaries to do it, but ultimately knowing that's going to get us where we want to get to faster. And he's picked players that go out and take the game on and make it hard. You know what it's like as a bowler. If you're able to just run in and bowl the same ball over and over again on a wicket that's offering, you're happy as Larry. If someone's making you adjust your length, moving around the crease, it makes it difficult to just do that over and over again, and it takes you away from what you want to do. So I think that mindset is something that this team embodies pretty well, and is the way that we look at things. And of course, as every now and again we're going to make mistakes, and because we're trying to move the game in a certain direction, it might not always look conventional, but there's always method behind what we're trying to do. And I think that's really important to remember for us more than anything, is that we've got to keep looking to play the game which is going to bring the best out of us, and ultimately by doing that become more consistent and bring the performances in that we desire.
And take us to the moment, this series, named after Martin Crowe and Graham Thorpe. We were at the funeral together. You carried him out of the church. He's a special man, wasn't he?
Very special man.
I can still see him sitting there. I can still see him in the Caribbean after we won in, I think it was Jamaica. It was either Jamaica or Trinidad. And I can still see him. I'm nearly going to well up here, but he's underneath a palm tree with this ridiculously flowered shirt, with a hat just tipped just forward, as though he was just about to drop off to sleep, with a little rum and coke in his hand, and he had just contributed to a win. I mean, he meant so much to me, and I only played with him a short period. He had a lot of influence in your career.
Huge, and I reckon he still had that same shirt when he was touring with us as coach. But look, I mentioned, he was a massive influence as me as a kid growing up watching him play. But then to get the time and effort and energy that he put into my game, and getting all of his expertise on batting, and what he did for English cricket, you look at a generation of batters over the last 10 years: Joss Buttler, Ben Stokes, Jason Roy, Johnny Bairstow. You're talking about majority of World Cup winning and Ashes winning teams that we've had over that sort of period of time. He's had a huge influence on them and all that they've brought to English cricket too. But he was more than just a coach, really. He'd sit there, he would happily have a glass of wine with you or a few beers with you at the end of day's play. And if you'd had a good day, he'd celebrate with you. And if you'd had a bad day, he'd pick you up off the floor, he'd dust you down and get you ready for the next one. And he gave you so much more than just cricket advice, life advice. He'd make the tours fun and enjoyable, and he'd always get you laughing. So yeah, I think it's such a nice thing that they've done, and a great way to remember two greats of each nation. Martin was a fantastic player in his own right. I think both of them actually represent, their styles of play represent the two teams pretty well as well. So it's a really fitting way to remember two greats of the game and two brilliant people. And
finally, I know you don't like talking about yourself or anything like that, but what's left for Joe? You go, Ashes won in India, you won the World Cup, you've been England captain. Is it simple, going with your best mate Ben to Australia and winning the Ashes abroad?
Yes, but we've got so much big cricket to play before then. I mean, this series is mouthwatering in itself. You've got 3 tests against New Zealand, which we don't get very often, especially here. It's a very difficult place to come and win for an England team. And they're obviously off the back of a 3-0 win in India, so they'll be full of confidence. But I think the way that we play suits these conditions. The players that we've got can exploit what's on to offer here. And then, India as well, at home, 5 test matches. That's something to really get our teeth into and to look forward to. So,
what would it mean to you and Ben?
It'd be huge. Honestly, for me, that would be massive. And I think part of the problem from the last couple of times that I went as captain, I wanted it too much. And I looked too much into it, and there were so many things that didn't quite fall into place for us. And then we didn't perform when we were there too. So I think more than anything for me, it'd be just about trying to enjoy the whole experience of it and just soak it all in, enjoy everything that comes with it. You against, you as a touring team against the whole country, as it can be over there. But yeah, I mean, what a carrot to be dangled. We've got 8 games, I guess, or 9 games as a team together now to ready ourselves for that. So, there's so much to look forward to, so much great cricket coming up over the next 12 months.
Joe, I seen you right at the very start. It's been a great journey, 150, still going, and we wish you all the best on that journey, hopefully, with the Ashes win at the end of it.
Cheers, thank you very much. Cheers, Army.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.